Welcome back, Guardians. My name is Samlab, or my actual name, which is Smart Hopewell, for those of you who are interested. Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. It has been approximately, I don't know what, nearly 60 days since my last YouTube video upload, and a lot's happened. And the title of this video, I guess, is a little bit clickbaity, but hear me out here before you skip this video. I want to talk about three things. First, what just happened over the last 3 weeks. Second, what Bungie's plan seems to be. And then number three, Destiny 3. So I'll do my best to keep this as light as possible and as concise as possible. We're going to go over an article that Paul Tassi did, which is a summary of all the recent events. I will do my best to keep this as dyslexia friendly and try not to use super big words and try and keep myself on track. I have my notepad. Well, you can't see it because I've green screened, but yeah. Testing out backdrops. This could be a thing for the future. Testing out all the things. So this gives me a chance to talk about aspects of Destiny that I don't get to talk about in lore videos. I'm sure some of you are wondering, Smart, where are lore videos? Have you quit? The answer is no, but I'll get into that at the very end of this video. But today what I want to talk about is just take 5 minutes or so to acknowledge the developers who were let go from Bungie. I don't know if any of them are still subscribed to my channel, or if they even were, or if any of you are still here, or if you're a developer who watches my videos at all. I just want you to know that I appreciate you, and I understand what it feels like to lose work, lose a contract, to be laid off, to have guarantees or promises, and then, you know, somebody just pull the rug out from under your feet, and you end up in a position where you feel like you have nothing and things are spinning on axis. And I'm sure many of us who are watching this right now have been in those shoes or may still be in those shoes. But I just want to encourage you guys and let you know that there is hope. And thank you, thank you for all the hard work that you did that went unnoticed, that nobody ever really thanked you for it, just acknowledged you or allowed you to feel seen. I think it's so important in the day and age that we live in that people feel seen and they feel valued. And it's really difficult to move forward in life in the creative sector, because gaming falls under creative arts, and feel like you are completely underappreciated and all the hard work you did went to nothing. As a player of Destiny, reader of lore, thank you. So I had recorded a first version of this video, which I recorded last week, but it was very much a lot more of me live journaling in a sense. This is something that I'm making up. So sometimes I will record an entire video, edit and watch back, and then think to myself, okay, no, there's probably a more concise and impactful way that I can gather all my thoughts together and turn what has been a very messy, news-driven experience into something that maybe will be a little bit more hopeful for any of you watching or listening. So we're going to go ahead and switch screens up here. I have Paul Tassi's article open already, and the plan is to just read through this together, and I will address each point as it comes up. Excuse me in advance for my cadence of either speaking or my cadence of reading. Being neurodivergent, my brain is always working faster than I can articulate, so I may make mistakes, I may repeat myself a couple of times, I may even veer off on a tangent, but I have my notes, like I said, in front of me to make sure that I don't do that. And yeah, this is I guess we could call this like a skeleton crew kind of update. Excuse me as I'm trying to turn notifications off on my phone. But this is me, I guess you could call it live streaming without live streaming. Anyway, I'm digressing here. So Paul Tassi's article says, is this the end of Destiny 2? Not quite, not exactly. On Saturday, I published a piece laying out where Destiny is going from here based on some inside information, expanding on other reporting, and extremely vague hints from Bungie itself. The era of massive years of Destiny 2 content is ending. The game itself is not, even as some of the community are acting like the group playing... Okay, so this is Paul kind of making fun of the community here. The game itself is not, even though some of the community are acting like the group playing the violin as the Titanic sank. The point is that Destiny is living on, just dramatically changed. And one side benefit may be that, well, this is where my dyslexia gets the best of me. And one of the side benefits may be that, well, it should be easier to stay current with most likely. And probably cheaper too. The basics of what Destiny is turning into now. Okay, let's address this first part of this. This is Destiny community has always been seen to be somewhat of a dramatic community. So I'm thinking this is Paul as a writer just like, hey, you guys calm down. It's not the end of the world. I will say that generally speaking, a lot of games journalists, and I mean no offense by this, tend to have a super critical view, or publications make them seem that way, because critical news gets views, and everybody on some level has an inner cynic, and it's really easier to be negative. And that's one of the things that I have an issue with journalism on a whole, but particularly game journalism, and how we're always looking for a reason for something to do bad, and then when it does, it's like, yes, we're gonna trend today. And I think that's a terrible way to do business, to profit on the demise of anybody. And some of you watching this right now will be like, well, Samlab, that's business. And I would argue that's business that's put the world in the shape that it is right now, where studios like Bungie are struggling. But that's a different topic for another day. And I'm sure you've seen plenty of tweets from people that are very vocal about this. I'm vocal, but I tend to be more articulate, so I only speak when I need to speak, and so this is my opportunity to speak to you guys as my viewers. So, moving on, the basics of what Destiny is turning into now. Two main releases a year. The first is something akin to the old expansion on a similar scale. This should include the basics like a new destination, raid, a campaign. But there is a comparison point. It may be harkened back to something like Shadowkeep, Destiny 2's smallest mainline expansion. However, in terms of narrative, this should be when we leave the solar system and explore other worlds. It's unclear if this content is paid or free, though I imagine at the least it would be cheaper than the current expansion, if nothing else. Okay. There's a lot here, okay? There's a lot to unpack, guys. First of all, 2 main releases in a year is not the end of the world. There are other franchises that do this well, and we've seen them, whether that be Final Fantasy XIV, or Apex Legends, or CSGO, or League of Legends, or Diablo. I mean, the list goes on, right? There are a couple of points in here that Axis that give us some clue of the consideration, and I've hinted at this idea about Bungie and their, I guess you could say, their ethos, and it's tangible because it's in their stories. And I think I said it something akin to this, where I was like, Destiny's end is always a beginning, is always an end, and then a beginning. In that Bungie, I think in a huge sense, is constantly recycling. You know, they're on a loop, okay? How do we tell the very first, I'm just going to use Star Wars, the very first Star Wars movie again multiple times? If you look at the timeline of Destiny 2, from year one vanilla to now, we've probably had seasons repeat themselves. If you look really closely, there are archetypes that have worked really well that have carried through. So, in 2023, or sorry, in 2024, 2023, we had Season of the Seraph. Season of the Seraph was a lot like Season of the Worthy. Two Warmind seasons. Season of the Worthy was a lot like Warmind expansion, which arguably was quite a big content drop. I know people like to act like, oh, there was nothing in that. That's absolutely a lie, and I'll come back to that later. The idea of having two main releases takes my mind back to when we had the Curse of Osiris release, and then we had Warmind expansion release. Now, I know that those two expansions weren't necessarily what everybody was looking for, but a lot of stuff dropped in those seasons. A lot of the lore in those seasons were catalysts and narrative setup for where we currently are in Destiny's story. So I would argue that those were probably like two of the most pivotal narrative driven expansions that we had. I know a lot of people, I remember playing Curse of Osiris, and there was a lot of complaint that people felt it was lackluster. We didn't really get to see Osiris be one of the greatest, warlocks in all of Destiny's history. We didn't really get to explore the Vex, but they were like teasers, they were preludes. And that at that point, I believe Bungie was still with Activision. So it's interesting to me that, like, coming full circle, we're coming back to the idea of essentially having two main expansions in a year, and then basically, I'm speculating here, we may have what is like a Season of the Worthy level Into the Light mini expansion in between, and possibly like after the second expansion. I don't know. It makes sense given a lot of other game studios' development cycles and how they always have like the chunky content update and then the mini update, and then they have a chunky one and then they have a mini one. So technically you get two big expansions, but you probably get, if we're blessed, like 2 or 3 miniature expansions. The bonus of those things is, one, it reduces developmental costs, and this is where things get really interesting as we speculate, or we look at the idea of frontiers. Imagine for frontiers to move forward, everything would have to be sunset. Earth, Nessus, Neptune, Mars. Well, Mars is already sunset because we only have a loadable location and a dungeon from that. But like I've already said Neptune. Where else? The Dreaming City. So every major planet that's current story is more or less over is sunset. Okay, the only planets that I would suspect wouldn't need to be sunset immediately would probably be like Earth, Neptune, and the Dreaming City. Everything else is probably or easily sunsetable. A fourth planet possibly being Mars, in order to make room for whatever Frontiers is going to bring, which is clearly going to bring a new system and a whole set of new planets. With a reduced size Destiny, it allows development to be done quicker and iterations to be made faster, and it also reduces obviously like the overall cost of what it takes to run Destiny, because it's significantly a smaller game. the challenge with that kind of Frontiers of story is having an attractive enough scope to interest players, and whether or not the gameplay loop will remain as it is in its current archetype, or if it will advance to the next level. I.e. something like Payday, you know? Sorry, not Payday, Payback, which was the prototype game that was in development, which nobody said was bad. And I have some speculations about that, but I don't want to get too deep into that. So just keep what I've said in mind. You've got 2 big expansions, possibly a 3rd mini expansion, and then maybe a wrap up at the end of the year, probably like a solstice into Halloween stuff, into Christmas stuff, right? So those would be like your 3 mini expansions, but you've had your main Into the Light mini mega expansion, if that makes sense, like your medium, you know. So let's carry on with this. It says the second release would be 6 months later, and something more akin to Into the Light. Yep, it would be a free content drop with hopefully engaging activity and something meaningful to farm. The success of Into the Light inspired this idea. Between these is the least unclear. Probably 2 pieces of content akin to seasons or episodes. Yep, I would agree with that. But on what scale, we don't know. These are mentions of temporary events called rallies during this time. Rallies sounds more like a public event driven thing. And that's what I meant when I said Season of the Worthy. Season of Arrivals. Season of Arrivals public event was probably one of the most played public events in Destiny 2 ever. Quote me on it, tweet about it, and ask people who were there when Season of Arrivals showed up. That was the big season because that was the beginning of the pyramid ships entering our system. We had just come from Season of the Worthy, and we knew Rasputin tried to take out the pyramid ship, and it failed, and Rasputin was shut down, or at least he shut himself. There's actually no clarity about that, even though we had Season of the Seraph give us some idea. But yeah, a really interesting aspect of this idea of rallies. So keep that word in mind. Rallies sounds to me more like a large multiplayer experience that requires a lot of Guardians. Possibly similar to I forget the name of the mission at the end of the final shape. I want to say Salvation's Tide, but that's not it. Excision. Something akin to Excision, but a little bit more open world. I'm kind of thinking like Guild Wars 2 world boss event that require like multiple group triggers, you know? Each large group of like 500 plus players needs to do their thing to get the main thing, and the boss is like projectile and etc. So yeah, that's what I imagine in my mind is likely to be. I think I'm kind of excited, guys. I'm kind of excited. Here's my 2 reasons why. 1, onboarding. You've got to have new players signing up to a game. It's just a part of the longevity of a game surviving, and I'm sure Bungie developers have been angry about not being able to invest time in that, and those who have left wishing that they had the chance to like implement some of that stuff that they wanted to do so that we wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. And that is a shame, and I completely resonate, because I remember like many other people have said, okay, some of Destiny's biggest time was during a global pandemic. And if this video doesn't get monetized, you know, YouTube, whatever, like, because it's not about that. We need to talk about stuff. It was a dark time, and story, the message of hope in so many stories is what pulled us out of the despair or depression that we were in. And Destiny became huge because it was one of the only games out there that had an incredible gameplay loop that also had insane quality narrative. We're talking deep. Come on, guys. Look at how many YouTube videos I have on Destiny lore, just scratching the surface on some of the most heavily debated topics in the Destiny community. And we're still arguing about D1 lore. We're still talking about how the Books of Sorrow can't be trusted, but oh, hold on, there was like a million red herrings in that, or direct narrative breadcrumbs that connected us to like lore that we're reading right now, or things that took place. So I think having a game that's easier to develop will be easier to distill the core Destiny experience. I would argue, we're talking about a D1 size Destiny. Imagine it, right? D1 size that everybody says D1 was better, and also how, oh, the Taken King was the best expansion ever. But like, Destiny and Destiny 2 are night and day, because Destiny was a smaller game, probably a slightly bigger team, if not the same. I'm just saying there's a lot of patterns here when you look in that are emerging based on like things that have already been done, that are tried and tested and work. And as a developer, as creatives, that is something that you regularly do. You look at what worked well, and you look at how you can bring those things into the present, because if it ain't broke, why fix it? So let's move on with this article. So it says, yes, the player count is certainly going to drop as Destiny enters its new era. That's a given. That's already started with the game's largest percentage drop-offs ever after the final shape. There's no reason to think that we will see big surges like we have the last few expansions if the next few are far smaller. But the idea is that less cash burn paired with less players may work out okay. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I wouldn't just assume that because we think Bungie isn't investing in the right way, it means we're gonna have less players. Because here is let's just read this article and then I'll wrap up with like my final thoughts. The point is that there will be Destiny content to consume, but not nearly at the pace or volume we have now. The world is not being abandoned Anthem style. The IP is not dead, despite all this. I very much believe Bungie and Sony don't want that, but it will no longer demand so much time. It will be a harder game to main. We will likely see fewer Destiny-focused streamers, YouTubers, and journalists, with less to cover on a given basis. I know it's disappointing, but that's the reality. A sort of limbo for the game where we know this is where things are going, and it's been triple confirmed that no, there is no Destiny 3 coming. Anything other than what we're about to get is far away. It's not even starting to be worked on. But Destiny lives, if only just. Yeah, this article is a little bit of, it's that fishing, we went fishing today. Let me reel you in with a bit of hope and then chop you, cut the fish, bam, in half right at the end with, we're in limbo. I don't know why the games community does this. Words have power, and we always seem to use words for negative things, for clickbait. I'm not attacking Paul because I respect him as somebody who he's been doing this for years. He's been a writer longer than I've been a writer, but I would argue that I agree with some things, and that's normal, with press articles and stuff like this. You're never going to agree on anything all the time. 100% of the time, no matter how you want it to be, which is like, that's the world I live in. I always want everything I put out to be a palatable, enjoyable experience. Everybody has to say yes to everything, not yes to everything I say, but like agree with my perspective. And it's like, that's why it's a perspective. Everybody doesn't have to agree on it. That's your perspective. So yeah, like that's the balanced view I take with Paul's article. He's speculating a lot here. But yeah, I want to give my thoughts, okay? Imagine for a second, okay? When a business says something to you on a corporate level, and they say it 3 times, it doesn't always necessarily mean that there is no Destiny 3, okay? Imagine if they took everything that was in Destiny 3 and brought it into Destiny 2 for 2 reasons. One, there was an article, I think about a week ago or so, that talked about branding, and they were talking about adjusting Destiny 2's branding. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Destiny 2 go back to Destiny 1. I know people would hate that, but we refer to it already as Destiny. The 2 on there is just like pointless. That was an Activision push. It never made sense. Like Final Fantasy 14 is Final Fantasy 14, and then it has its episodic or expansion names. Like that's what would make sense for Destiny, but you know, to each their own. But imagine if Bungie took everything from Payback and everything from what they look. You can't tell me that after 10 years there was no mock-ups for a Destiny 3. That's absolutely the biggest lie under the sun. There's no such thing. I've been to studios, I've worked with game studios, they are always developing something, even if cash hasn't been invested into it. There are project files titled Destiny 3, unless I'm happy to be wrong, okay? But that discussion has definitely come up more than once. And I would be willing to bet that there is some level of concept, you know, as a company. There's no way you don't talk about the idea of a next thing following on from what you're doing right now, you know. So imagine taking all the research, all the development of Destiny 3 and plugging it back into a Destiny. By scaling back your production, yeah, I imagine combining everything, okay? The research, the development, and with a scaled back Destiny, we can do 2 things. We can chop off everything that really never worked and was just in the game, but it was an abandoned activity already. I mean, literally, if we didn't have an Echo on Nessus, the only reason people are on Nessus is because of new lights, onboarding. I've run into countless new lights on Nessus who are like, hey, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, can you help me? And I'm literally running them through the entire of Nessus and looking and Cade, you know, and all that to say that, like, it is a difficult balancing act for a studio like Bungie, because although it's sad that developers have been let go, and I'm on the side of developers. I am not. I don't understand why corporate businesses make the decisions that they make, because I'm like, you can easily make business decisions and still consider your people, your employees, your workforce above all. Because if you don't have a workforce, you don't have a company. You don't have a Fortune 500 business. You don't have investors, because the building blocks are your employees. So to see those people be let go is sad. But at the same time, I understand from a leadership perspective, if you a leader who is like in the trenches and understands what's going on, I think has a better stake interest in how things develop, and allowing developers to cook and giving them the freedom that they need and enabling them to feel seen and valued in this company that they believe in, so that they can produce excellent work. And that's what Final Shape is. The sad part about that, and everybody has been saying this whole writing on the wall thing, is before COVID, we were already in this place because the cadence of updates was dying. I believe it was right after Season of Dawn, that there was a lot of uncertainty as to what the direction of Destiny was going to be. And that's when we got hit with, we're working on stuff, there's going to be another big thing, and we're going to have, I think it was Noseworthy and Luke Smith, and they were talking about Season of the Forge, Season of the Drifter, and Season of the Opulence, which were, oh my goodness, arguably, if we're gonna say, right, okay, let me go back to this article. If we're gonna say 2 main releases in the year, I'm hoping that those 2 main releases are gonna look something like Season of the Forge or Season of Opulence or Season of the Drifter, because those seasons popped off. And let me tell you, not only was there enough loot to chase, but the gameplay loop was fun. So if we're doing, and that's kind of like what Into the Light touched on, except Into the Light, the only thing I felt was missing from Into the Light was like story. There wasn't enough story. If Bungie's able to balance story with an Into the Light pseudo Forge, Opulence, and Drifter style content drop, it's the magic. I think we'll see people eventually come back once we see that there is stability, regular stability with Destiny. Not that there hasn't been regular stability, don't take me out of context. But yeah, I think that kind of structure is really important. So back to my original point is that if we're able to see this distillment of the truest Destiny experience, then it's going to be amazing. What we do need to see, we need a Destiny 3. I don't know if anybody said that, but we have to have the next phase. And whether that next phase includes complete third person, I've never understood why we couldn't have first person and third person. I've heard Astacross talk about how he doesn't like third person, and I'm like, yeah, but if we're talking about is first person better than third person, then take a game like Elder Scrolls, which gives you first person and third person, and the experience you have is seamless. I think every game should have that from just an accessibility point of view, but I know as a game developer, it is incredibly challenging to build a game like Destiny and constantly be switching between third and first person camera modes. Having said that, we do that on the fly anyway, because all supers are in third person. For the entire of their energy consumption, they're in third person. So why not just have the ability to toggle to third and first person whenever you wanted? It makes more sense to me. But like changes like that, I feel would give Destiny a freshness that it hasn't had for a number of years, and also bring people back, because I think, well, I'll tell you what would happen is very quickly, even without necessarily tweaking too much, Destiny would full on enter to that MMO space, because people would be like, oh, we can play Destiny 2 in third person, which gives you a completely brand new field of view, scope, the way we play. Like, it would change PvP, it would change everything. Granted, you could just have like modes that are just like particularly locked to first person, but hey, that's just my take. I'm a third person guy. I've never been a first person guy. I think Destiny was the only game that convinced me of first person, because they do it so well. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts on everything that's happened so far. Hopefully you found something in here insightful or encouraging. Take the good stuff and just throw away the rambling of anything I've said that just you felt didn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, I think to wrap things up, I want to talk about plans for what I'll be doing next on the channel. It's been hard. Content creation has been difficult for me personally, because I don't make much money from monetization. I've transparently, I've had 2 payouts from making Destiny lore, and it's competitive. If I want to live and do content creation, it's not possible. One has to give. Like, I either have to choose that I want to live a good life and have a good mental health and have a good spiritual health and make sure that my body is in the right shape where it needs to be. Like, I've been on a full fitness kick and I'm like eating healthier and just trying to get in better shape, because I don't want to be the bachelor gamer forever, guys. Like, I eventually want a wife and kids. I'm just being honest with you. And I can't do that just grinding Destiny 24/7. I haven't been fortunate enough to meet my wife in Destiny. I wish that happened. It didn't, but here we are. And so I'm just trusting that God will lead me to the right opportunities. So a big part of that has been the I just started a blog. Some of you would have seen that I've posted articles from it, psalmlab.net, and that is a heavy focus on all the things that I love. My faith, Destiny lore. Man, there is a metric ton of Destiny lore in here. Pages and pages and pages of Destiny lore articles. If you've got questions about different things, past and present, this is a good place to come and find them. Otherwise you can use the search engine. And then I'm also like doing neuro creative tips. Don't know why articles aren't showing up in there. They should be. But I have like creative insights, just talking about experiences I've had as a creative, as somebody who's run a business, run a brand design marketing business, worked with a ton of clients. So I'm getting back into that like mentoring consulting space as well. So yeah, this is where I'm at when I don't have time to do lore videos. I'm writing articles. And I'm also working on a store. I also have like free resources as well. So if you're neurodiverse, this is a great resource for you guys. I have a podcast that I put together interviewing different creative people in different fields, from games development to photography to like art as well. So that's something I may pick up again in the future. I'm not sure. You know, Psalm Lab is a lab. We are always we're always testing, and the channel grows as I grow, because I guess it's an embodiment of like aspects of who I am. Some other articles I did an article with Distinct. They interviewed me and asked me about my journey as somebody who's dyslexic and what that was like, and getting diagnosed, and how I coped with it, and what I've learned up to this point. So yeah, that's a great article to read if you're looking for some encouragement and you've been diagnosed, or you've never been diagnosed, or you've wondered, there are signs. Like I resonate with people who are on the spectrum, but I've never felt brave enough to do it. Read that article. Hopefully it will help you to work those things out. As well, I have lo-fi music. I used to make a lot of lo-fi tracks, but I put a playlist here for you guys if you want something to listen to while you work, study, or commute. And then, so I recently got sponsored by Notion with affiliate links. So the next few videos I'm going to be releasing are going to be sponsored by them, and I'll have the affiliate link in the description. This video I isn't sponsored by them, which is fine. And then I have some keynote videos from like when I did some speaking way back when, and yeah, definitely check that out if you're interested. But that is pretty much where things have been at. So law, I have a few law videos that I'm working on. I have a massive video all about Frontiers, essentially what is Frontiers, and it is a narrative compendium bringing you all the way from like Season of the Worthy all the way up to now, and why everything is connected and how it's connected, and even like speculating beyond Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. I've got those 3 videos that I did already, which were way ahead, but I also wanted to do more, talk about that more, because I think it's relevant. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. The plan is to do Destiny lore, but also I want to do more Warframe lore, so I'm scripting a video right now for Warframe. No idea when that will be out. No idea when the Frontiers video will be out. I have quit the algorithm. In a sense, I've quit YouTube, because YouTube wants us to constantly be uploading, and I'm like, YouTube, you're not paying me. You're not paying me enough to be uploading. So until that day comes, I need to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills, and it's definitely not going to be from only uploading YouTube videos. So I'm still here, I'm still active, I'm still working on content, but stick with me. You know that I run my seasons like actual TV series seasons, so you may get like a whole massive season of content and then we take a break. So right now we're taking a break whilst cooking stuff. I've just switched from using Filmora as my editing software to DaVinci Resolve, so that's been like a massive learning curve, because I'm like Googling and like editing on the fly, and I'm like, this is way easier than like the cut and paste that Filmora trying to get people to get used to. But it's really funny because for everything there is they have a filter for. DaVinci, like Resolve, has a actual toggle for that you just like switch on. So for example, like having, you know, black bars at the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen, there's like a setting for that, you know, 100% off the top, 100% off the bottom, instant black bars, it's cropped. Whereas in Filmora, it was like literally a filter that I would drag and then drop on top of the clip. So, and I would have to drag and drop that on every single clip. Whereas once I've set it in Resolve, it's done. That's it. Like, I don't have to do it again. So yeah, just a quick synopsis. And that's it. That's pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. If you did like everything I had to say in this, please go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to find out when my next lore video or review video goes live. And remember that no matter what you're facing at this moment in time, you can do all things. Stay safe and Godspeed.